Ghosty fam, Amy here. Welcome to The Activity Continues, a podcast where three soul friends talk about all things paranormal. Ghosts, hauntings, psychics, movies and TV shows, especially The Dead Files, and other spooky and spooky adjacent things. We also like to interview people in the paranormal community, as well as past Dead Files clients and other interesting people. Sometimes we even tell your stories. I hope you enjoy the show.
Hello. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us again. In this episode, we discussed the Dead Files episode Absorbed. It was from season 11 and it's episode 12, originally aired September 26, 2019. And it was chosen by AP. So AP, do you want to tell us why you chose this?
Blind guess.
Oh, so you adopted the Megan method.
I did. I took the Megan method.
Like,
you know,
I'm so
honestly,
proud.
I scrolled through the spreadsheet that we have. I was looking for something in the upper Midwest. I saw a couple of them, and then I saw that this was a horse farm, and it was slightly misleading because I thought this would be more of a little bit of a business, but it was a really interesting episode. I say a lot more interesting with the family than the research. The stories that backed into it. And we definitely get into that a little bit. And when we get into the content warning, we do discuss death by suicide.
Yeah.
I think that's really
in-depth.
Yeah, we go.
There was
not
some religious
in-depth,
stuff,
yeah.
but we didn't get into it too much, but there.
No.
Housekeeping.
Housekeeping. The only thing I have is if you have not taken our survey yet, go take our survey. It's on theactivitycontinues.com/survey. And if you don't already have the bingo cards, you will get the bingo cards even if you do already have them, if you take the survey, you'll get an email back with the bingo cards. So if you want those, that's a good way to get them without having to pay for them or join Patreon.
Awesome.
I think that's about it. I don't think I have anything else that we need to cover. Anybody else? No? Okay. Well, enjoy the episode.
Welcome back, everybody. Tonight, as mentioned, we are discussing the Dead Files episode Absorbed. And AP is here with your overview of the episode. Take it away, AP.
Thanks, Megan. Today we traveled to Heartland, Wisconsin, which I kept searching Hartford, Wisconsin. It's not the same place. And we meet Carol, her husband Grant, and daughter Ashley. Steve meets with the family and discovers that they have lived in this home for 4 years, but we learn the 4 years at the end of the episode. It is a treasure for them and allows Carol to live her dreams of a horse farm. We learn they are dealing with the classic signs of hauntings that we have come to know and love. Mood changes, pains, scratches, seeing and hearing things that are more than just their critters. Ashley is 15 and scared for her mom, just as Carol is scared for her daughter. Grant tells Steve he wasn't a believer until he had his experiences here. Steve starts his research with information provided by Carol that someone had reportedly died by suicide on the property prior to their ownership. Steve speaks to a retired cop about this story, which we'll get into. His research continues to uncover unique results, including a man who developed religious mania in the late 1800s and was deemed insane, as well as a nearby holy location with an interesting, in every sense of the Midwest term, history. Amy's exploration of the property brings us an earth protector, shadow beings, a distraught woman, PK manifestation, a hungry earth, yes, you heard that right, and a vortex. What does this mean for the family? Will they be able to stay in their beloved home safely? Find out if the activity continues.
Where shall we begin?
At the beginning is usually a great place to start.
That sounds good. Yeah.
That's what Julie Andros says.
Yes. So, and I think it actually says Hartford, Wisconsin, but I think it's Heartland, Wisconsin.
Oh, is it? Okay.
But maybe I got confused because I started looking it up and I swear I saw Heartland when I looked it up on. I don't know. You can throw off that I was.
You go ahead and
AP is my thing. Don't take it from me.
I felt like trying it on for a while.
I have so few things in life. Being confused is it's my main
And I
thing.
think I got real confused because I was trying to find this woman who supposedly died by suicide who I don't think exists.
I couldn't find her either.
I couldn't find a thing on her.
It does say in the overview on Google, it does say Hartford,
Okay.
Wisconsin.
In Hartford, Harrington, and Hampshire.
Hartford. And it also says it on the Travel Channel, Hartford.
Okay.
Hurricanes hardly
That's
happen.
what I thought. And then I got don't worry, I got confused. It's fine. Everything's
It's
fine.
fine.
I put on
Everything's
Megan's
fine.
hat for a while. It felt nice.
Give it back though, because this knowing what's going on is really upsetting me. I don't like it.
Dang it.
I need
All
to
right.
be confused. It's my base level.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, I mean, we start off with this is a horse farm. I definitely thought that we were going to get a little bit more about the horse farm itself, not just that it was a home and a house. Like, okay, I mean, I get it, but I thought it was more about a business because, you know, me and the
You
business
like
episodes.
businesses. Yeah.
But it was very interesting. And of course, it was very difficult for Matt to hide this fact from Amy because one, you're going to smell it. And two, you're going to see the horses.
Yeah.
Right.
And at least
I
it
will
was
say you skipped over something. Everybody get your bingo cards out because Steve says if Amy Allen and I can't fix it, someone's going to get killed.
yeah.
So make sure
You're
to
right.
check that off of your bingo card.
Yeah. It's on there.
Because their lives depend on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no pressure. Amy
no
and Steve,
pressure.
No pressure.
Well, we do end up with a vortex later on, so somebody's got to have that. I feel like we saw a lot of those in vortex and portals in,
Yes, in
season 15.
for sure. Yeah.
So it felt nice to see something that we were so used to again. In this episode, it was really interesting just as they're starting off, and I think Amy always starts her episode or her part of the episode off real strong with some phrase.
she does.
Obviously it's cut that way to be that.
Right.
Yeah.
But she starts off with the ground wants to like kill her. It wants to swallow somebody. It's like, you know, just this whole absorbed into the ground, which was
I bet that's where they got the title from.
I'm so proud of you.
Ding, ding, ding.
Thank
Megan
you.
got it.
Yeah.
You guys, I am sharp as a butter knife. Nothing gets past me.
You know what else is really surprising? Steve asks some fun questions this
Oh
time
my
around.
God, Steve.
I like the whole what's with the horses?
Yeah. I looked at that too, and I was like, I thought he meant like, why so many horses? And I was like, Steve, it's a fucking horse farm. But I think he was just saying like, why, you know, who here loves horses? What's this all about? You know, that kind of thing.
Because
Which,
it's not cheap.
No, it's not cheap, but I thought it was kind of a shitty question because obviously, like, this has been her dream.
She
She says that multiple times.
It
But
wasn't
not before
worded.
he asked that.
No, but he didn't word it very nicely.
No.
He was
It was
just
weird.
It was
What's with all the horses?
there was a lot
The
of
boozing?
crassness in this episode.
Very, yes. There was not the way he spoke.
woke up on the wrong side of the bed, I
Yes.
think.
I think he was mad because Grant was taller than him.
Oh, yeah, that little scene in the farm
And-
where they're like doing the stand
In the stables.
In the
yep.
stables, yeah, when they're doing this
Yeah.
standoff.
Which I say, even though it's not a garage, I'm going to count it in the same.
It's kind of
realm.
the same kind of deal. It's where the guy spends all his time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So I just was upset with Steve throughout this whole episode, but like, don't shit on her dream, Steve.
Yeah.
Somebody could be like, "Why'd you become a cop, you fucking idiot?" Like,
Well, and if
I didn't
you-
take it as he
if
was
you
shitting
have-
on her dream.
No,
I
I think
kinda
he was
took it
just
a bit.
more like, oh, okay, that's weird because it's just not his thing. But horses are not cheap. So if
No.
she had horses already,
and they're
they would have had to come from a place that she was able to keep them, or they would have been having to have them boarded somewhere, which then is a whole nother issue of things. So,
yeah.
and we have no idea. I was very disappointed that we have no idea how many horses are there. Like,
Mhm.
are they?
There was.
Do they take them out for competitions? Do they show like,
Mhm.
or is it trail riding? That there's
Yeah.
so many questions I had that we did not.
There
get
was
to.
nary a horse in the whole episode. I'm like,
No.
we can't get one. We can't. You can have drone footage in season 15, but you can't have a horse in season 11.
I wonder if that horse farm was just sort of like a boarding place. Like if
Yeah.
you have a horse and you live in an apartment, you keep your horse
maybe.
over at
And
Carol's.
that was
And it might have been like, they would have to get waivers for everybody whose horse lives there
Oh,
Very
maybe.
potentially to
you know, to
have.
show them
There
that.
you go with your freaking logic.
I don't know if it's so
I'm just
important about the
guessing.
horses, but if there were other people on site that
Yeah.
day, that kind of thing. Because
Yeah.
they would have had to have people there to take care of the horses
Yeah.
or the people, coming in and out.
Yeah.
I
Anyways,
follow a horse person on TikTok. Katie Van
Yeah, you
Slyke.
talked about her last
I
time
love her so
when
much.
we-
She has so many horses. She has a lot of horses. And they're all pregnant. And they're all foaling.
Oh, nice.
We're on watch for Annie right now. She's
Oh, okay.
328 days pregnant.
Oh my goodness.
yep. They have a long gestation period.
Yikes.
340 is about average. If I was pregnant for 340 days, I would not enjoy it. I would shoot somebody. 10 months is enough.
You
Anyways.
don't want to know how long elephants are pregnant for.
2 years.
Yeah. Yikes.
Anyways.
I felt so bad for Carol because throughout the whole episode, she just blamed herself because it was her dream. And I'm like, you shouldn't blame yourself for following your dream and making it a reality.
Yep.
So my heart really went out to Carol in this episode. Like, oh God, I felt so bad for her.
And it is a tough thing because obviously she wanted this, but it couldn't have just been her, making that decision. Obviously, her husband had to have had some sort of, at least from what it seemed like, they had a very balanced relationship kind of thing. And then we hear later on, like, that their marriage is being driven apart. Like, okay, but is this just another one of your gimmicks that we're doing?
I
Travel
think that
Channel?
was, I think that was coming from them, not because they seemed very in touch with each other and very supportive of each other. And like he
and
grabbed
not
her
in
hand
disbelief
and
of each
helped.
other.
And in the reveal, I noticed when some information was brought to light and she goes, "Are you scared of me?" And he was like, no, never.
Yeah.
Like he was emphatically, and he rubbed her back. Like,
Yeah.
I do not feel like there was a rift in
That
this
did not look like a
relationship.
troubled marriage.
No.
They looked very happy. I mean, happy with each other anyway, or the relationship.
Yep. I don't know. Well, we learned from Carol that it's just her husband and daughter that live on this property. And like I said in the overview, it's all the classic signs that we're hearing and getting on about. But Steve does at least he didn't ask if anybody's died here. Like, has anybody died in this town?
Yeah. Nope, they're all immortal.
She's trying to like support, her daughter. Then Steve's like, yeah, that's tough. So do you know anything about the history? Like, it just was not he's like, great, she's a teenager. Do you know anything about the history of this place?
Yeah.
Did anybody die here or anything that might help my investigation?
That is probably the editor's problem. Not
Great. So enough about
much.
your stupid teenager. What about this place? Like that.
It must be rough being a teen.
Anyways, moving on.
Yeah. And Carol shares with us that supposedly she heard from neighbors that a woman died by suicide on the property long before we owned it. Now, later on, we hear that they've owned the property or they lived on the property for 4 years. So this episode came out in 2019. So shot maybe in 2018. So they've been there since 2014 or so. Well, the death that we find out later on was 2011. So it's not that.
I mean, that's long in dog years.
So I would put it more at a couple of years, but it just felt like it should have been, like 2001 or maybe that's why we're thrown off on it. But
you think long before, like even I would go back to like the 90s when she says that, but just a couple of years. Yeah.
Yes. What did you guys think of Amy's walk at the very beginning here as she's starting to open up with all the things?
Yeah, the quicksand and the living woman being, that was creepy. I used to be scared of quicksand. That was the thing that our parents scared us about when we were little. Everybody that's my age.
Was it your parents or everyone's? Because your parents scared you about pretty specific things like the Moonies.
Yeah, the Moonies and driving over a bridge. And that was my mom. All of that was my mom. But I remember hearing something. It was probably a TikTok, let's be honest. And the person said, if you're my age, somewhere between this year and this year born, did your parents ever scare you about quicksand. Were you,
Oh, yeah.
were you ever under the impression that you could just fall into a pit of quicksand walking out the door every time you turn around? And I was like, yes, absolutely.
Same. I mean, it was
Okay.
in a lot of our movies and things too. Never
Yeah.
Ending Story is a big one that I can
Oh,
think
right.
of.
Yeah,
Yes. Uh-huh. The what is
John
it? The Swamp of
Mulaney does
Sadness.
a whole skit about quicksand, about how he thought quicksand was going to be a much bigger problem than it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know what? The name is very misleading because it's not
that
quick.
It's not that quick, but
It's not
It
like you
is more
step in
so
and
if you the more you wiggle around,
yeah, but it's
quicker
very
it goes. But yes.
slow
Mm-hmm.
from
Well,
what I know, which is
it's
not a
different
lot.
than different than like regular sand, which you just kind of stand on top of, I guess. I don't know.
yeah.
Curious where that came from.
Yeah.
I will say I did connect a little bit with Carol on some of the things because she talks about picture frame flying across the room. I'm like, well, we've had that happen in our house where all the
Was it
pictures
the
were up on our
dogs?
mantle, up on the mantle where the dogs couldn't get to them, and one by one, my parents watched them knock over. They weren't touching each other either. Then there's a time when she talks about their TV turned on. She and her daughter were in a room and the TV turned on at a very loud volume. I'm like, been there, Lutz and Lodge.
Okay, but like, what show was scheduled to be on? Because maybe the ghost just wanted some trashy TV.
For me, it was 6:53 a.m. So I would guess not much.
Was it a Sunday morning? Because Sunday morning
Saturday.
comes on about that time. So they wanted cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons.
Got it.
Yeah.
The ghost wanted the cartoons. What I did like about Carol though is like Steve's like, well, did you get this checked out? What about maybe it's just something electrical? And she's like, no, actually we've had it all redone. Because if it's likely an older house, it probably would not have passed code if they had it gotten redone.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I have a quicksand update.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
It takes approximately 2 to 3 minutes to lose consciousness and 5 to 10 minutes to die.
But how long does it take you to sink down?
Yeah, that was sink. That's the word I should have used. I just said swallowed.
I mean, I would assume it's very similar to what happens in a grain bin when somebody falls in a grain bin.
Yes.
Ooh.
I bet it is.
What happens on that entrapment is it closes in around your chest cavity. So every time you breathe back in, so when the breath goes out of your body, it's going to tighten just like a snake
like a
would.
snake.
So the more, and then you have less room to move out, and it just keeps constricting.
Ugh, so you're basically getting squished.
Yep, you're getting suffocated that way.
If you find yourself stuck in quicksand, the best idea is to lean back so that the weight of your body is distributed over a wider area. Moving won't cause you to sink. In fact, slow back and forth movements can actually let water into the cavity around a trapped limb, loosening the quicksand's hold. Getting out will take a while, though. Physicists have calculated that the force required to extract your foot from quicksand at a rate of 1 centimeter per second is roughly equal to the force needed to lift a medium-sized car.
Okay. Well, now I have a new fear unlocked. So thank you, everybody, because I wasn't afraid of quicksands.
Well,
and that's why in
join the club.
Communities that have grain bins, a lot of first responders are it's grain bin rescue equipment, and it's literally a canister that would go over somebody's body, over the person, and push down to take the pressure off to release that it's suction. So if you've ever gotten your foot stuck in the mud and then your boot comes off, it's that same kind of concept.
Nope.
Thanks. Yeah, that is scary. That and the movies.
Yeah. Back to Carol and Amy. Actually, we start hearing about Amy talking about PK manifestations. And, we often hear PK is related to teenagers.
However, maybe it was the daughter.
Yeah, but we've heard sometimes that it's not always the daughter. It's not always the daughter. It's not always the teenager.
Sometimes it's the son.
Yep.
Or the non-binary person.
Or the non-binary, or the they.
It's not always the teenager, but can be somebody who is being affected by a lot of things. It could be stress and anxiety. It could be a lot of different things, but sounds like some of the objects moving or things that they're hearing and seeing might be related to a PK manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
I wish this was the only thing that it could be, is that all headaches were just paranormal to explain.
Yeah.
I mean,
Steve's
obviously it is literally
Steve's
the only
like, I don't know if this is paranormal, but you seem to think it is. No shit, Steve. That's why they called you.
That was slightly rude. You seem to think it is. You're fucking wrong, but you seem to think it is.
He, like AP said, I think he woke up on the wrong side of the bed for this, because he was, the only time he was decent, in my opinion, was with the daughter.
He was really sweet with her.
But he's always good with kids.
Yeah.
I mean, that's throughout the seasons, that's been the consistency, is he is very sweet with them.
He is. Yeah. He is. I wonder, these are usually filmed over a series of days. So maybe what the snarky Steve we're seeing, which is all the horses, is that was his bad day. And then when he was, some of the ones where he was, because I thought he was really sweet to Carol most of the time too. But
I just, with Carol though, like she says that, she talks about having headaches and being drained and that sort of stuff. And she's like, well, I've never really had them before. Like, oh, lucky.
Yeah,
right.
Rub salt in my wound.
Yeah, no
I've
kidding.
been tired since 2000, but that's cool.
I mean, I get headaches and they will last. Like the last pressure systems that we had going through, I had a headache that rolled back and forth. I probably had it for about 5 or 6 days, that it just kind of rolled back and forth. And it was a migraine at one point, and then it just kind of like shifted, and then it was like just a tickle, just a little bit. And it's like, so when people, like my dad is like, how are you functioning? I'm like, because I'm just used to it. It's always
Have you
been this way.
tried for your migraines, those cold head things? Do those work for you?
Sometimes, but not necessarily. Like if I get a migraine, nothing touches it. And sometimes sleep helps, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
It just sucks. But it was kind of interesting, as Carol was saying, like, yeah, I've had some weird health issues and it's headaches. And then she shows these scratches. And again, I'm going to preface with, they are definitely scratches. They are deeper than what we normally see with scratches in these episodes and pictures.
But they're not claw marks, which Amy and I found out what they were different last week.
To me, it, depending on where it is, it looks like if you've ever caught the edge of something quickly when you've walked past, or if you're working out in the garden and got a rose thorn or something that's scratched. That's what it looks like to me. If you're thinking for what's another explanation for this, it's definitely not an animal scratch.
No, but it's,
go ahead.
What you're saying, AP, there was no preface to what she was doing when she found them.
No.
What she did before that, so like you said, it could be anything.
And
we don't even know where they are in her body, do we?
No. It's an arm or a leg is what it looks like, but arm or a leg. But
the one picture, But the one on the left.
All he says is, well, it's not an allergic reaction. Is there anything in the bed that could have caused these scratches? Now, I have had plenty of times that I have worked outside and I didn't know that I had gotten a scratch on my arm until I took a shower, or I woke up the next morning. I'm like, why is my arm sore? Oh, where'd that come from?
Yeah, I get that a lot.
And especially if you're used to, which I'm assuming she would be used to working outside if she's got a horse farm.
Yeah.
It just,
she could have been like, well, I mean, is there anything in the bed that could cause scratches? Well, I mean, Grant gets pretty feisty, but
he has long toenails.
Yeah. I meant in the throes of passion, Amy.
There you go. And then she talks about in their
His
bedroom
toenails.
too.
Ew.
I'm trying to move on from toenails.
I know, but it's
gross.
Your camera's glitching a little too.
I know. It's
probably
because
you said toenails.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Well,
even the spirits, like, Amy, that's gross.
Yeah, they are. But we continue to talk with Carol in her room, and she talks about pitch darkness. Now, have any of you ever gone into caves and experienced true pitch black?
Mm-mm.
It is insane.
Not in a cave.
I'm afraid of the dark, so I really don't want to do that.
You have to be in either in a cave or a cavern where there is literally, like, they turn off the lights, and even though you think it's dark in your room and you have the room darkening shades and everything,
Mhm.
it's still light enough that you can still, your eyes adjust and you see. When you're in complete pitch blackness,
Mhm.
your eyes can't adjust.
Mhm.
We can't open
Yeah.
our eyes wide enough. And
Mhm.
you can have your hand like this in front of your face and you can't tell that it's there. It
Yeah.
is the freakiest thing. It is true black. And
Yeah.
our
No.
minds cannot comprehend true darkness.
Yeah.
No,
It is
I'm
trippy.
good.
Try doing it in a room that also has no sound.
Mm-hmm.
Like a at our old house we had a whole studio, recording studio.
Where?
And
Is that up on the third floor?
no, it was in the carriage house
Oh,
in the
yeah,
other
I never
building.
went there.
And I was just talking to Greg about that. He's like, "Do you ever miss the old house?" Because we drove by it yesterday. And I said, "I miss the fact that I had a fucking podcast studio before I had a podcast. I could have used that."
I do kind of miss your old house. It had
was a
some
cool
good
house.
character.
It's a good house, and it was
Yeah.
haunted. But it had a sound room in it. The recording it was a recording room for voiceovers, not for music necessarily. So it was just a small box room built inside a room that had, the tiles all over, and then it had, the foam tiles everywhere. And you could make that completely dark. And when you went in and shut the door, you didn't hear anything except your
Oh my
heartbeat.
God.
Mhm.
Sounds horrible.
It was weird.
And in a cave, it's even darker than that is.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Crystal caves, it was fun when I was a kid. We went to those. Yeah, I want to jump down to Ashley now. I think we kind of got most of the stuff that Carol's been dealing with.
Yeah.
Because Ashley she's very sweet.
She was
I've
sweet.
definitely worked with a lot of kids who are like her, and just you could hear the tremble in her voice. And I don't know so much if that was nerves or if it was just like, like this is, I don't want to talk about it kind of thing.
I think
Yeah.
it was all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I felt so sorry for her that she apologized for being anxious. And she said,
I
I
hated
have a bit of
that.
anxiety. I apologize. And I was like, "You're breaking my heart.
Yeah.
Never apologize for being anxious."
Yeah.
I
It's
felt so
probably
bad for
a
her.
mask that you learn to wear for certain
of
things.
course.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If I tell you about it, then you won't get mad at me for having it. Mhm.
Yeah. If I say first that I know I'm doing this thing that might be annoying to you,
Mhm.
then yeah.
Yep.
Which I feel bad. I hope she didn't feel like she was being annoying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hope she
Yeah.
doesn't think, I have a feeling she was thinking, "Oh my God, he probably thinks I am just a train wreck. And so I better say something."
Yeah.
And that makes me
And
sad.
and it's so interesting because she was so worried about her mom and her mom's worried about her, but I don't think they've actually talked, like at this point, I don't think they've actually talked about how much each one worries for
Yeah.
the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they both are just pulling that apart, which is often what we see.
Yeah.
Especially like the mom, they don't want to make the other one worry more. So in
Mhm.
effect, they're just worrying themselves sick.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Poor.
Yeah.
Oh, she just was so sweet.
I know.
Yep. And she does talk about, shadow things and worrying about her mom. So one area where she does apologize and he keeps saying, relax, relax, relax. That actually doesn't help people
Yeah.
relax
Yeah.
when you say that. And I know he was trying to be helpful.
Yeah.
Um,
I think he was.
but he was, but it's just like if someone's like, hey, calm down,
Yeah.
that doesn't usually work very well.
Yeah.
And then, because then she's like, well, you're telling me to relax. And now I'm sorry that I can't relax. And now you're telling me to relax again.
And now that's all I can think about is what I look like. And I'm on
And
camera
how
and
I'm
I'm going to
supposed
be
to
on
be
TV.
relaxing, but I
Relax,
can't
relax,
relax.
relax. Yeah. And it's like when you're trying to get to sleep and you're like,
Yeah.
if I fall asleep right now, I can get 4 hours of sleep. And then
Yep.
you lay there with your eyes wide open. And then you're like, if I fall asleep right now, I can get
Yep.
3 hours of sleep. Yeah.
Yep.
Relax.
But he is able to
do
get
it.
from her that she's been shoved and it's been when she's laying down in bed. And then I hate the question that he asks her. And I think it's just the way that it's worded.
Yeah.
But he asks, is it an adult touching you?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I think he meant to say like, or like what he means is, does it feel like the strength of an adult or
Yeah.
like,
Does it
not
feel like that it's an adult pushing you would have
Yeah,
been a better. I think just using the word touching you, it
it
just
is
is
gross.
I got the impression he wanted to find out if it was a sexual type thing,
Yeah.
but he didn't want to ask her with that word. That's
okay.
why I think he used adult, but
I
I could be
yeah.
wrong.
I was like, I hate that kind of question because
Yeah.
she said she was pushed and it was like a
Yeah.
rough shove.
Yeah.
So when I hear rough shove versus like someone's
Adult
touching
touching.
me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So I could see where he could be coming from that, from his experiences with that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So, um, but she's at the end, she's like, I don't know, maybe it's something malevolent or demonic. I'm like, were those your words? They
Yeah.
were so sweet coming out of your mouth.
Yeah.
And
Um,
that's it makes me think that not saying her mom coached her because I don't think that's what happened, but it feels like her mom said those words.
Hmm.
yep.
So maybe they're talking about
They've
it
probably
and
talked about it
yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah.
And just being, I think, the religious aspect too comes into that, malevolent and demonic.
Yeah.
Those aren't, I would probably just say something just feels evil or off
Yeah.
or aggressive, those kinds of things. So it's just probably how families talk through different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure.
And Amy talks about this thing that she sees that is massive
Yeah.
and like a big elephant. And she talks about it. So now I have this elephant in my mind as this earth protector because she keeps saying it's protecting the ground.
Hmm.
So it's really interesting. And,
Yeah,
Amy
we've
is
never had that before. An actual like
not in
earth
that way.
protector.
Mm-mm.
No. And we've had some other things like that, but not like those have been more like elementals and other aspects, but not really this like blob thing that
Yeah.
everyone's describing.
Yeah.
And yeah. And she talks about a person, or this thing is creeping on a person, giving them headaches, and their shadow person. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that's all tied into one little passage.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. It was
And
kind
now
of a lot.
yeah. And now we get to meet Grant, who is, you can definitely tell it the way that they angled the picture in the stables that Grant is a little bit taller than Steve, but they are, as they're talking through things, it's kind of interesting because I stuck on a word that Grant used, and he's like, it was an aggressive bang. He heard this aggressive bang on the side of the building. I'm like, how is a bang aggressive?
I get how it can be. I mean, and he mimicked it. He acted it out or whatever. I think if somebody bangs on your door, you can tell the difference between it being aggressive or not.
Like if an abuser is trying to get into your house or like the way some law enforcement
Like,
knock
blah,
on the
blah, blah,
door.
blah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like that's
but one
aggressive.
bang. He said it was just one loud bang, and then it was.
That's true.
I mean, that's wind blowing a tree branch onto the side of a metal building. So if he had described it as bang bang bang, aggressive,
That's
yes.
true.
Where it's one loud bang as aggressive, I think that's, to me, was just a sticking point of like, you're putting your emotion into that rather than
That could
keeping
be.
to a fact.
That could be. But also, I mean, I think what he was getting at is that it was heavy and forceful.
Yeah.
And maybe that aggressive was just the wrong word to use. But
Yeah.
obviously, he does believe that it was aggressive, like you said.
I mean, I've been in the pole barn and heard the wind smack something up against the metal sheeting. It's like, damn, wind picked up.
Yeah. Yeah.
My brain never goes to, well, what was that? Was that a ghost? Was that something? No,
Mine
because
would.
my brain goes to, I can explain this easily.
Oh, mine first goes to,
So-
what the fuck was that? Am I haunted? But then I will try
Same.
to figure it out. But I don't immediately
I
go to
don't.
the logical part.
I
Yeah.
don't even go there at all. I'm just like, welp, a ghost lives here now.
Well, that's it.
Welp, I know there's a tornado outside, but nope, it's a ghost.
Well, you
ghost.
guys know me. I go to the logic first.
Yep.
You didn't really. he didn't really experience, too much else saying, yeah, there's been some mood swings.
Mm-hmm. The only explanation is paranormal.
Obviously.
Yeah, he doesn't really give us much to go on. Like, oh yeah, I get headaches and I feel very tired all the time.
And I can have a short temper, okay, but if you're
so can everybody.
Yeah. You're doing a lot of work and it's a lot of manual labor on a horse farm. And I assume that he works, at least one of them works off the property.
Off-site, yeah.
But then probably also having to take care of everything. That's a lot that gets put on there, because if you came in and you own the property, that means you're operating the property. You're not operating it for somebody else and renting. So Amy, you dropped in a picture of something about driving me nuts, and
Yeah. Well, he said,
it's like a pirate.
I lose track of thought. I lose track of thought, scattered, and it just drives me nuts. And every time I hear the phrase drives me nuts, it's driving me nuts, or it drives me nuts, I picture this picture, which is from Adult Swim.
Now I get it.
And it's a pirate with a wheel on his crotchal area, as if he is driving his nuts.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yep.
And I just kind of more so went with the how does anybody ever just not lose their train of thought either in the middle of telling a story, or you're working on something and then you're like, oh, but I need to organize this first. And then you finish organizing that. Then you're like, oh, I need to put this away over here. And then your whole train of thought is just gone.
Hi, it's called ADHD.
Yeah, I do it all the time.
Yeah.
A day doesn't go by, or I don't.
Yeah. So
what were we talking about?
Yeah,
What?
exactly. Oh, here's where we get Grant comes through and says, because he's so tired and has headaches all the time, and he thinks this thing wants to destroy his marriage. So there's where we get the marriage being
the only
destroyed.
option. It's the only possible explanation.
Yeah.
Which, they keep saying that, but I don't really get a lot of evidence backing that up. They have short tempers, okay. I just feel like there's not that much evidence backing up that claim, as we've seen in other episodes.
Yeah.
Other episodes, there have been a lot more things driving them apart. They sleep in separate rooms, or they're constantly fighting or screaming at each other, or, we just did one a couple times ago where she threatened divorce. And this one, they're like, well, we kind of fight.
Yep.
We kind of, we have mood swings.
Which, means that they've had a really great marriage and everything. So then this being something unique and different, and congratulations, and hopefully it all stopped.
What's that like?
Yeah.
Perfect marriage. Don't throw your perfect marriage in our face, Carol. I'm just kidding.
Anything else from the first part of this before we dive into the investigations?
Pew. That was me diving.
Yes. Is that a swan dive, or?
No, it's like when I'm diving in the water,
you got a dolphin dive going on.
Well, because I can't extend my arms out because my computer is here. So I'm shallow dive.
Got it. Okay.
A shallow dive.
Okay. I thought Matt was asking really good questions with Amy. I probably wouldn't have thought to ask the things that he did.
He's so smart.
He's great. And I like that he has got, I'm glad that they kept him on even after he and Amy weren't together anymore. That's good that they still got along so well.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like they had a good working relationship.
Yeah.
So,
and she trusted him, and she didn't trust a lot of people, I think.
Yeah.
On that.
He's cute, so he's easy on the eyes.
It's cute. Yeah.
All right. I agree. Matt had great questions, and he knows how to pull the information out of her and just hey, tell me more about that, or what's going on there. He'd be a
good therapist.
Oh, I was going to say he'd be a good investigator as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of the
same. What is a therapist if not an investigator?
Kind of the same thing. Yep.
Digging Tru the archives.
Speaking of investigations,
here we go.
Nice.
What Amy and I were doing a lot, trying to figure out this next story, because I am under the impression that this story does not exist.
This is
and
the
that
suicide?
is This is the woman who died by suicide. We talked to a retired cop. We get so little information.
Yeah.
But I will have to say, again, here's where I come up with crass apparently was my word of the day, because I thought the way that this started off. So this woman apparently killed herself on my client's property. It's like, is there not a nicer way to say some of that? Just
Yeah.
little compassion.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I don't know how you guys felt about this, but there was so little information in this, and it just left me with questions. So we find out this woman is Angelina White. She's 40 years old. She loved horses, and she owned 2 horses and had an apartment near here. Then we find out that her best friend heard noises outside of her apartment. So noises outside of Angelina's apartment or
I
her own
assume so.
apartment. I assume Angelina's apartment, but it just says Angelina's best friend heard some noises outside her apartment. And she goes outside to investigate the noises. So again, where is she at her house or is she at Angelina's?
Maybe they were both in the same complex.
Could be.
Yeah,
And
it
she
was not
finds-
explained very well.
No, she finds a plastic container with numerous photographs of Angelina and a supposed suicide note. No, we get nothing. What were these photos? Were these like revenge porn photos? Were these, was there something more here? So law enforcement goes to look. They find an abandoned truck that's on the property, but Angelina's not at the truck. And they find another suicide note on the front seat. And then they read part of the suicide note that just says, "Please forgive me for this final act." And then, and we don't even know, this must be the next day. They find this woman's body near a park. And again, I'm like, is this park as a park? Like, does the horse farm back up to a park? Like,
Yeah,
how did
because
we
they
get
said
to
it
a
was
park?
on the property.
Yeah.
And if it was at a park, then it wasn't on the property.
So how did she get here? Like, did she have to walk a long ways? How far of a distance was this? How far was this where her horses were boarded?
I assume her horses were boarded at this horse farm.
Well, but they didn't say it was at the horse farm.
they
They
didn't
just said
say any
she
of it.
had 2 horses and they were boarded nearby.
Yeah.
I assume so as well. And then we learned that she used a firearm, and then they show a
Which
picture.
I could not believe the pictures that they showed in this
I know.
episode of this event.
Yeah.
Which, interesting, also looking at it means that there was only 1 shell in that gun because it's jacked back. And so it means that that's empty. It means that there's nothing left in the clip.
Oh, okay.
So
didn't know
unless
that.
somebody already picked it up and removed the clip and made sure that it was empty by the time that this photo was taken,
Yeah.
which could be as well, because I would assume they would have had to call in, a crime investigation from Milwaukee, being that this is a small town. But I don't know. I looked up, I could not find a single thing about this woman.
I couldn't either.
I looked up her name. I looked up the town. I looked up suicide notices. I looked up obituaries. There was not even a story run.
Yeah. I didn't see anything either. I didn't look at newspapers.com because I don't have the account anymore.
Mhm.
But I did Google it, and I Googled it in a lot of different ways. It kept saying, "Do you mean Angela White?" And I'm like, no.
Yeah, she's a porn star who almost died.
Angela White is? Oh.
I just know
Yeah.
that because I'm looking it up right now.
Oh, okay.
Sure,
Yeah.
Megan.
You're welcome.
That's right. That's right.
But yeah,
That's how you know it.
it was just
Shut up.
You don't know me.
You don't know what I do.
So yeah, I don't know. It was also interesting that so Steve says she didn't keep her horses there. Do you have any clue why she would choose this location? Not why
he
she
did
did
say
it.
that. Okay.
I didn't remember that till I read it, but
Yeah.
and there's no indication as to or speculation as to why she may have died by suicide.
Unless the auto told Steve that and they just cut it.
Right.
Otherwise, Steve would have asked because he asks about shit that he does know about. So obviously, if he didn't know about it, he would have asked.
Yeah. And then it just says she was a horse enthusiast, so she drove around and found a place she loved. So you said she wasn't that like it just somebody make it make sense.
I know it doesn't make a lot of sense. That's
And I
why
know I'm wasting time on this, but I was so stuck on this one.
no, I know it's bothering me too. And of course, because it makes no fucking sense, I go to was she murdered? And all of this was staged.
100%. Or did they really not have anything? And so
They just
she
made up
said
a
that
story.
she said that somebody died by suicide, and so they just made up a story.
Yeah. Oh, God, I hope not. I hope they wouldn't do that.
I hope speculation because we have no idea to know for sure, but I can't. This person doesn't seem to have existed.
Right. Although
And
Amy did see something
Right.
similar.
Yeah, I'll let you jump in on that one because you had a great way of speaking about that too.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, just when Amy was talking about, she said she saw two women, but she thinks they're the same person, a carbon copy outline of one another. She said, I don't know if this is her death or if she's disassociating herself from it. She's an angry person. She's sitting there glaring at me, and I'm getting like a shot in the back of the head. And now Otto says that Angelina shot herself in the mouth, right?
hmm
And so I was thinking, is Amy feeling the exit wound?
hmm
Yeah. Which
no.
the way that they talked about her death was so disrespectful.
Yeah.
Like,
The whole thing was disrespectful.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Amy saying that she felt like she got shot in the back of the head.
hmm
I mean,
So then I'm like, maybe I don't know what the cops are like in Hartford, Wisconsin. Do they know the difference between the bullet going in this part or going
it's
this
pretty
way?
clear.
the exit wound is very different
Yeah,
than an entry
entrance and
wound.
Well, I
exit
would
are
think so,
pretty
yes.
clear.
But I don't know. Either this is not who Amy saw, the person Amy's talking about is not the suicide, or she was just feeling because that's where most of the pain was.
Which, then it makes me think as you're talking, a lot of times when Amy runs into these people who are still stuck in that death state, is it was something that was a surprise. They didn't know.
But they also like don't know they're dead.
Or and if we want to continue on that she did die by suicide, it could be that she was in such a state that she didn't recognize that what she did. Maybe there was a dissociation within the person themselves. I'm like, I'm kind of leaning towards that there's more to this story because
There's a
there
lot
is
more to this
nothing
story.
out there.
Even if it's all on the up and up, there's more to this story that we're not getting. If it's
So-
true, if it really happened.
Yeah. It's just an interesting one. I found this to be far more interesting than the rest of the stories, but we never talk about this woman in the reveal. So
Yeah.
this is just, Angelina White. If this is what happened to you, so sorry that it did, and we wish we had more information to provide.
Please don't haunt us. I mean, you could probably haunt Amy and AP. Please don't haunt me. I don't appreciate it.
Oh,
Speaking of, I need
Now
to
we take
connect with Leah again because my dreams have been off the charts
Really?
lately.
do you ever look them up? Look up some of the
Sometimes.
actions.
Yeah. I did last night. I dreamt I was a cashier with Patrick Swayze at Target, so I didn't look that one up. But I've had some really. I need to bring my dream journal back because I need to start writing them down because they have been intense lately.
I've had some really crazy ones. Last night I was in a taxi in the back seat with Mark Ruffalo, so that was okay.
Oh, I got where I was I was looking for, jobs or whatever, but I still had my job, but I was like being offered my old job back from where I worked before where I work now. And I was considering it, but I was like, no, why would I take that? I would not make what I make. There's no way I would make what I make. And their benefits aren't that great unless they've changed. And then it was like, well, I'll just use this as leverage to get,
Oh, yeah.
so that's where my brain was going. But I think that's more so for me, is more so due to my manager is challenging me to write my own job description of what I want to do in the future.
Oh, I love that.
And so thinking about what are your strengths and what are your passions and what do you want to do? And kind of, and he's like, use the AI that we have and have it write it and now tweak it. And then, then he's like, tweak it, keep tweaking it and then use that to find, what kind of roles or, like put in your passions and things into AI and find out what roles it would spit out for you. Then go and look those up and see what it is, if anything sparks. He's always just trying to challenge.
That's cool.
I
want to make $1 million.
But he's not trying to get
really
me off. He's not trying to get me off the team because I asked him that. Just
I mean, a
laughing.
manager's job is to help their team grow.
Yeah.
That's what they're supposed to do. Anyways, I'm sorry I derailed us with Leah.
No, that's okay.
And Patrick Swayze.
We're going to take a complete left turn now. So hold on.
Left.
And we're going to hear about just briefly about a religious zealot, basically. This man I was very surprised that they diagnosed a man with religious mania in the 1800s. So a woman would have just been called hysterical. Yeah.
He had to be really, really bad for them to diagnose a man because as we all know, men can do no wrong. Right. So for him to be at that level, he had to be pretty awful. They were like, okay, fine. There's something wrong with this man. He's one of the very few that's not perfect.
Yeah. and exactly. And here, though, again, we don't get a lot of, we get a lot of information about him, but we don't, we found out his wife dies. And then he kind of goes crazy. It was the 1800s and she was 43. There's a number of things that could have killed her.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but when they say his wife died young, to me, that's like 18, 19 years old. 43 is not young in the 1800s.
Shut up.
I'm older than you.
I know.
I'm closer to 43 than you are.
Yeah. It's one of those things that it's just like,
Or
okay,
Amy,
so
she's ancient.
I'm 100.
How are you even?
I don't know, but my hip hurts.
Can you do this?
Yeah.
Oh, so close. Show
yeah.
off AP.
I've been working on my yoga. I don't know. This was just one of those weird. Obviously, it was connected. Did we even say how far it was? Was it 2,000 feet away from the farm? I don't know. They like to use that all the time. This guy was Irish, and
Americans will do anything to not use the metric system. He was 4 football fields away.
Yep. There you go. I don't know. We just don't learn a lot about stuff. He gets diagnosed as with religious mania and is deemed insane. And then he has to move in with his sister. And as a sister, I'd be like, great.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I feel like he the way that they phrased it was like he just the way I took it was he kind of went insane from grief. Like his wife died, leaving him with 4 children. He turned to religion and just really becomes fanatical in his beliefs. It's, it was his coping, but he just kind of went a little
because he tried to kill everybody.
Yeah, he tried to kill his family.
But what did they do to him?
I mean, was it justified?
What were they wearing? Also, he had to move in with his sister and he's got 4 kids. I assume his sister had some kids because that's all women were good for. So that's a lot of kids.
But it was the 1800s. We don't know anything about his sister, just like we don't know anything about his wife.
Why would we?
No.
She's meaningless, except only if she had kids. But
and we do know that he was put into an asylum after he tried to, murder his family, but he didn't go into an asylum until 4 years later.
Oh my God.
And then when he does get out, he lives with his daughter until his death. And then, which is almost 30 years after his wife passed. So he's got to be in his 70s. And Steve goes, well, that's tragic.
No, it's not, Steve.
What, that he died?
He was a piece of shit. He tried to kill people. He was, I shouldn't say he was a piece of shit. He was mentally unstable. There was obviously stuff going on.
Yeah. I was
I mean,
like,
the whole
okay,
story
the
is
story
tragic.
is tragic, but the way that it was cut,
Yeah.
at least, was like, here's his death certificate. Oh, that's tragic.
Yeah.
He lived a long life
Yeah.
at this
Steve
point.
Longer than a
Probably.
lot of people in that time period.
That's right. Steve
Longer than his
probably
wife.
meant that's a tragic story, not just that's tragic, and they just cut it to make
You
it.
know,
Maybe
they
the
used-
editors don't like Steve either, and they're just making him out to
Not in this episode. Damn.
seriously, so he pissed somebody off.
He made someone mad.
But they do use tragic, awful, like different things
Brutal.
at different times when you're like, okay, but it was also the time period.
Someone
you
got a
know?
thesaurus for Christmas.
Yeah.
Uh,
They're like, okay, we've used tragic 15 times. Quick, give me another word.
yep. And really the only thing we get at this point with Amy is she's like, there's some guy who's off his rocker.
Right.
Like he's flipping out, he's scattered, he's losing it. So maybe that's what's playing into some of Grant's mind, being like, I can't remember anything, I'm losing track of stuff. Maybe he's picking up on that energy that's causing it. And yeah, other than that, I don't think we really talk about that again
No,
too
we
much.
don't.
Mm-mm.
No.
So now we go into the next part where I love this image. Steve is looking through the big old books and he's got a magnifying glass. I'm just like,
Okay, Steve.
got it. It was just it just looked like it was taken out of like like a noir detective in
Yeah.
France in the 1800s, and he should have like a hat on.
And a pipe.
Or like the 1920s, and he's got like the trench coat, and
Yep.
some broad comes in and, oh, Steve, with that really high, wispy, help me voice.
Yep.
I have a picture of him that I reuse for the video versions. And when we get to the section 2, and one of us says dig into the archives, I play the sound of Steve going dig into the archives, and I put that picture up.
I love that so much.
That's
I love
fantastic. This is where we get to the 2,000 feet. I was like, there's 2,000 feet somewhere in this show, because we don't like to give actual distances. 2,000
No.
feet is roughly a third to a half a mile, because a mile is 5,280 feet.
Okay.
But this whole Roman Catholic Basilica, Holy Land,
Holy Hill,
Hill is here. And yeah, I didn't realize that Basilica had that much of a meaning behind it.
Yeah, it means it was what was it that they were
Given special privileges by the Vatican.
by the Vatican? Yeah, I just thought it
Yeah.
was another name for a Catholic church.
Mhm.
I
I
didn't
did
know
too.
it was special.
Yeah, it was very interesting, and it again was this brought up because they were trying to tie it to our religious
I think it
character
was.
from before, even though I
Yeah, I
believe
did
this was
not-
built after he died.
I did not understand this entire segment. It was
Yeah.
so confusing to me.
Yeah,
No,
I was like, what purpose
and-
does this serve?
I don't know if you guys have been to Wisconsin, but
Once.
we don't have mountains in Minnesota and Wisconsin. But they're making it sound like it's this like straight up hill. Especially the author gives this story of a disabled hermit who mysteriously managed to get to the top of the hill. I'm like, it's not Mount
It was like a-
Everest.
It was like a hill. Yeah, like
was
a
a
little
hill. It was
slight.
not a
It was like
mountain.
a slight incline. You
Like,
can't
okay,
even sled down it.
I mean, I have no idea
No.
what this was, but then apparently he stayed there for several years and became healed and could walk again.
Like, what if it was a sprained ankle? Like, it wasn't miraculous. It was his body healing.
Yep, it was just it was
I
an
had a
interesting
bruise,
story,
but a week later, it healed. It's a miracle.
all by itself.
well, but that's why this became the Holy Hill, because he miraculously healed himself. And so therefore they built this holy hill, which creative name, guys.
Yeah, they
And,
probably talked for hours to come up with that too.
and then they say a lot of people made pilgrimages out here, and
It's not Mecca.
No, but it is something when people get excited about something like that, they come to see the place. They want to
get healed
they want to
themselves.
get healed themselves. And so there was a tourist bus that went up the hill and apparently the emergency brake went out. So
why are you holding the emergency brake?
if you're going up the hill, aren't you
That
hitting the
doesn't make
gas?
sense. Yeah.
The emergency brake would be on if it was parked.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the story doesn't quite make sense, but a woman was hit by the bus, like literally hit by the bus.
She was
crushed
just to death.
She was
by the
Regina
wheels
George.
Of the bus. And of course, my ADHD brain went, "Oh, the wheels of the bus go round and round." I'm like, not appropriate, Megan. Not the right. Read the room.
Well, and that we don't even go in chronological order of these stories either, because then we go back another 9 years prior to that, and we hear about a guy who was digging a trench and it caved in around him.
But like, couldn't that have been a sinkhole?
Not necessarily. So what is most likely what they're saying is that he was probably down digging a spot for a culvert to go in, is my guess. So you have to have the culverts that go underneath the road. And so he's probably down there deep enough. So if you got buried alive, it had to be 6, 7, 8 feet deep.
Unless you're Steve, and then it's only 5.5. Sorry.
And he probably
We love you, Steve. Just kidding.
What they would not have had would have been basically walls to keep the ground from shifting. So also if there was a heavy rain or anything, the ground wouldn't have been stable. It just would have been sliding back in.
Same ground. Same.
Sounds like it just kind of shifted and went through. Whereas a sinkhole would open up underneath.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
and that
true.
that would be the ground would come out from under there. So 1930s. I mean, FDR was, so this might have been a CCC type. I don't know when the New Deal and I can't remember when the New Deal and everything came through with FDR, but he, as pulling everybody out of the Great Depression, because my grandpa worked for the Conservation Corps and helped plant a lot of trees that we actually see in the Twin Cities area. But
that's cool.
Could be that he was part of this group around the with the CCC or something too, or just construction on the building.
I will say one thing that I laughed at, and only my own joke is what I laughed at, not anything in the show. But when Steve is like, "Oh, the guy was suffocated. That's the official cause of death," and I was like, "Well, yeah, sucked up by the ground in an instant wouldn't fit on the death certificate."
Yeah, that's allowed, I think.
So I thought that was funny. I laughed at my joke.
That's a good one.
Well, I mean, the ground does want to eat people, it seems.
Get in my belly.
And Amy even says that.
Yeah. Me, Amy?
Well, Amy Allen says
Amy
it, and
Allen.
then you also were like,
But yeah, I
excuse me,
said it's
what?
interesting that this guy was sucked into the ground and the ground wants to consume Carol too.
Maybe the ground has a tapeworm. I really appreciate the pity laughs you guys just gave me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Anything else before we go on to the reveal?
Not for me.
So now we're in the reveal, and then, Steve does his little spiel. Here's Carol and her husband, and they have a daughter, and...
Oh, by the way, it's a horse farm.
Yeah.
Just
But
in
what's
case you
with all the
didn't
horses?
know.
What's the scoop there, Carol?
Amy's like, "Steve, I fucking know it's a horse farm. I could smell the horses."
And then she's pretty much, Amy right away just jumps into like, yeah, so there's PK going on here, which affects all the electronic stuff and moving things and shaking things. And Steve's like, Carol, tell her what you saw.
Because she specifically, Amy was like, TV stuff. And then
Yeah.
Steve's like, "And Carol, you're up."
And then tell her about the picture flying off the piano. Like, it was just kind of funny. Like, okay, we gotta warm up the conversation here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I will say that when Amy's like, yep, that sounds like typical PK experiences, blah, blah, blah. Carol looked freaked out and like, that can't be.
She didn't look like she was buying it right away.
Yeah.
And
And
this is
then-
where we come to the point where she said, "Are you afraid of me?" to her husband. And
Yeah.
as we said, no, he
And
said
they
he's
did
not.
kind of giggle about it. Like they weren't, it wasn't super serious. She did
I
kind of
think it
laugh.
would, but
He was
I
like-
got more of a like a nervous laughter of
Yeah.
it.
Well, and because
With-
she said, I'm scared of me.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And then I think a couple of us picked up on this, and maybe all of us did, but Amy talked about the vortex in the back could cause a number of things.
Mhm.
Physical, mental issues, insomnia, vertigo, nausea, mental confusion, headaches, dizziness, which I was like, yeah, that could also be effects of lack of sleep.
Lack of sleep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that too.
And,
Yeah.
you know, Carol's like, we all suffer headaches. I'm like, okay, if you're all suffering headaches,
Who doesn't?
like, well, one thing, have you checked the house for like nobody?
I
We
wonder
didn't
why
ask
Steve
about
didn't
molds.
do that.
He didn't ask
Yeah.
about molds or
Yeah.
anything like that or smells because
I mean,
like you can definitely get sick from mildew and that sort of
Carbon
stuff.
monoxide?
But then
if there's like a slow like
Mhm.
carbon monoxide,
Yeah.
I mean, Steve has brought in freaking. Oh my God, why can't I
They were-
think of them right now? What are they the things that you call in when you have like rodents or?
exterminator.
Yes, thank you. He's brought in exterminators before.
Yes.
You couldn't
Maybe they
ask
were
about
already-
mold.
They were over budget with the three
Yeah,
experts
they
that they
couldn't
brought in
afford.
already.
Yeah.
But it
They
was just
spent all their money on blocks to make Steve look taller.
exactly. And then we just keep hearing about headaches and not sleeping and mental confusion. And it's just, again, all of it sounds like what happens if you are sleep deprived.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And if you're stressed about a business or stressed about getting all the stuff done, or we've all talked about times where we've just not slept well or had other things going on. So there's a lot of things that it
Yeah.
could tie into that's
And-
not just paranormal.
Right.
Mhm.
And we're not discounting Carol and
Correct.
Grant's and Ashley's
Right.
experiences. 100% we're not. Because we all believe them. We all believe that they felt that they had these experiences. But there's just, for what we're saying is that for as much as he investigates other things by bringing in exterminators and all of this, it's odd he didn't investigate more
Yeah. Yeah.
He
some
only
of
asked
these
a lot
other
about-
options.
Only asked about the electricity.
Mhm.
And maybe there was more questions and we just didn't hear them. But
True.
also goes to, there can be that little bit of like, oh, I have that. Well, I have that too. Oh, I have
Yeah.
that too. I wonder. And then you start thinking that you're hearing more things or
Power of
you're seeing
suggestion.
something. And
Yep.
so, just it's always good to, to be curious.
Mhm.
That was the biggest thing though. I mean, Amy confirms that there's a lot of that stuff, and then she talks about that it is this large protector thing that looks like an elephant, and she's very confused by this because it like she doesn't feel like she felt like the ground wasn't like it was sacred, but it didn't feel like it was sacred or something like that, and it just felt like I actually thought early on that we were going to hear stuff about Native American cultures
Yeah, I
or
did
something
too.
because this is an area that we would have seen like Ojibwe and others or Anishinaabe coming through, and I'm sure
Oneida.
more. Yep. I know there's a few different things, but we didn't hear anything about Indigenous or Native American
Which is
cultures.
really rare because
That's rare.
usually they touch on them in some way, shape, or form. And because they were here first, this was their land. So it would make sense that their history is tied to a lot of what happens because we fucking stole it from them. So yeah, I
Yep.
thought it was interesting that there wasn't any Native American ties to this.
Yeah, and I found where she said that it's some type of protector and its mission is to protect this land. I got this land as sacred, but what's so strange is usually land, even in sacred areas, doesn't particularly interact with the living. This is really
Yeah.
unusual because the land wants to absorb you. It's removing your life source. Slowly, it's trying to kill you. So that was what she also drew was Carol being basically sucked into quicksand by the earth, which is, and again, there's no connection to any sort of thing in history.
No.
And, I think there was then Steve tries to make there's this holy area that's just down the road 2,000 feet from the property.
And
One
he
and a
says,
half car lengths away from us.
and he pulls the picture out and says, "This is what it looks like during the day."
But does it look different
And
at
I'm like,
night
"Does it
other
look
than
different
dark?
at night?"
Yeah.
Thanks for mansplaining day.
God. Now this right here is a brick building.
Well, it
and-
was he just had a lovely segue out of this because she's like, okay, I'm talking about this. And then he's like, so you guys can see this thing from your driveway. Did you know that there's this holy area over here? Nope.
I mean, we can see it from our driveway. We just never knew what it was.
I mean, you can
Sarah
see that it's
Palin,
on a
I
hill.
can see Russia from my house. I can see the Bastille from my driveway. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It's just yeah, I feel like some of it was kind of a stretch.
hmm
Well, he ties it to the sacred land. He says to Amy, "Is this the sacred land you're talking about?" And she's like, "Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
would assume
Duh,
so."
Steve.
Which then it makes you wonder if, like, okay, if that became the sacred land and all of that, then why is the Catholic Church trying to swallow people up in the land?
Yeah.
Yeah. In her mind.
And then really we see, Carol is really shooken up and, she's really distraught because she feels like this was, as you mentioned earlier, Megan, that this was her dream. So obviously she put her family in harm's way is what she's feeling, which is not.
No. And
It just happened. It's kind of like the one, I can't remember her name. We interviewed, she had the seeing eye dog that died of cancer. And
Tracy.
yes,
Yeah.
thank you. And Tracy was told that their dogs don't die of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which
so
is-
then she never wanted to get another one again because she thought it was
That's
her
what makes
fault.
me
And
mad.
like
Because the breeder
that-
said that their dogs wouldn't have died.
that's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Cancer's the number one death for most labs.
Yeah.
So anyways, but that's what it reminded me of is like you really want something and then you feel like you caused the bad to
Yeah.
happen. And
Yeah.
so you
And I
walk
mean-
away from it.
You feel bad because I feel like when, and maybe it's just me, but like when I was a kid, one of my best friends and I, we were like, we're going to have a horse farm in Colorado. And like, that's just a girl dream that you have. And she made this a reality. And now it's like been this nightmare for her and her family. I really felt for her and her family throughout this whole thing. And like AP said, she mentioned so many times how this was her dream. And
It's not like she's coming in here and realizing that her dream is a lot of fucking work and she doesn't want to do it anymore, but she can't say, she's not sitting here going like, well, I can't tell my husband that I don't want to do this anymore and, making stuff up. That's not what's going on.
No.
And, there are people who do that where they think
Yeah.
that was their dream and then they're like, ooh, this is really tough.
Sounds
and I
good
don't
on
like it.
paper until you live it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially, I mean, I felt bad for her throughout everything, but really in the reveal is where she just tugged at my heartstrings because
Yeah.
she just,
Yeah.
it just feels so bad for her.
And then beyond that, we have real shadow person. And Steve has a great response of, oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he knows that those things aren't good.
Aren't
I mean,
good.
Amy has talked about her experiences with her own shadow people
Mm-hmm.
and seeing what kind of effects they have and, confirming things that the family has talked about. She has more pictures, which it got a little confusing of was the picture supposed to be of Carol or of Ashley for a minute there, but it's of Carol.
Yeah. Although, yeah.
Because they were talking about Ashley and then and then it like jumps to talking about Carol. So it was just a little disconnected.
Again,
And then
the editing was weird in this one.
Steve did his thing where he said, "You're not going to want to see this, but I have to show you." And out loud, I went, "Ugh, Steve."
Why is the shadow man so muscly?
He's been hitting
He's
the
ripped.
gym. He is. You know what? If I was going to, make myself look some way in the afterlife, I'd probably make myself look pretty snatched. That's what he's doing.
I didn't
He's got
really
a
pay
weird
attention.
face.
Yeah. It's
In
like
that
a
he
sausage.
doesn't have a face.
It looks like a speaker.
It looks
I
like
was
a
gonna say-
shower head.
A speaker, a shower head. It looks like the sunflower heaters that you put on the top of a propane tank.
What?
Yeah, a sunflower heater.
I don't understand any of those
I don't know
words
what
you
that
just
means.
said.
You can get like the propane tank that you put on a gas on a grill.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
And then you can get
check.
heaters that screw onto the top of that, and it looks like a sunflower face.
Why would you need a heater if it's on the grill?
Well, it wouldn't be on the grill. I was just telling you what the tank is,
So it's
that
like
you would have a
like a
connection
backyard
to it.
heater that
Uh,
is run by propane.
yeah. I mean, we use them in the
Or no?
hunting shack, and I wouldn't. It wouldn't necessarily be like it's a space. It's a space heater that you would
Sunflower
have in a
Okay.
heater.
not in a house, but in like a ice shanty
Oh,
or anything like that. So it looks like a sunflower face.
interesting.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. I was using
Interesting.
the grill to get you to see the tank that I was talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah,
see.
what? Yes, you're right.
So at the end of this all, we find out from Amy, can they stay here safely?
Mm-hmm.
Should I stay or should I go now?
Get the fuck out is what
fuck
it said.
out. Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's just
And usually Amy is like, you really should move. Like,
Mhm.
you shouldn't stay. But this one, she's like, you have to move.
You-
She
you
even
have
said it
to.
2 times.
Yep.
She's like, you have to move.
You are its victim. You are its
Mhm.
mark. You will die if you stay
Yeah.
here.
Mhm.
And Steve asks us question. So you're going to stay here? Are you going to take? And then later on, he asks, "Are you going to take Amy's advice?" And it's like
Mhm.
they just kind of said that they weren't
Yeah.
going to stay there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Carol's like, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to leave. Which then to me, I'm like, so does she have any horses? Like, because you can't just up and leave.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this wasn't an easy process to sell the house.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at least they know Amy, they asked if it would come with them, or Steve asked if the shadow person would follow them. And Amy said, nope, that it'll stay here.
Mhm.
So basically, you have to get out. And we get a video update a month later that they have taken Amy's advice and put the house on the market. And the activity, unfortunately, has continued with sleepless nights. And that's the last we hear of them there.
Mhm. And I have an update because I posted on the Dead Files Facebook group if anybody knew them, this couple, and if they could find them.
Mhm.
And Jim said they used to be in the group. I don't think they are anymore. But Carol did post in the group, and this was in January 14th, 2020. She said, my family recently moved to a new home at the advice of Amy and Steve. It was a difficult decision as we had a lot of blood, sweat, and tears invested in our previous property. Not to mention the financial loss. But in the end, peace of mind and safety of my family is more important. The Dead Files is a great show, and everyone involved are incredible people. They are all so kind and respectful. I can never thank them enough for all they did for my family.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I'm glad they got out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first episode where Amy told them to move, and I was legit sad for them
Yeah.
because they just, I mean, it was her dream. And
Yeah.
Well, they can find another horse
I
farm, like
know,
Steve
but
said.
yeah.
And she even was like, you know what? I'm fine with this. She seemed
She
like
did
she
seem-
had already thought about
Mhm.
if this is going to happen, we're going to be okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
I really liked his family.
I did
thought they
too.
were really sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Love the random picking of episodes.
Yeah. And you know what? It's so bizarre.
So
Megan and I
bizarre.
talked about this last time.
How bizarre.
That like starting from the episode before Beverly to then Beverly's episode, then the one Megan and I did, then this one, they all have a string that ties them together.
That's funny.
And Beverly talked about working on a horse farm.
Yep. And now this is horse
Cool.
farm. Yeah. So it's I'll make a little infographic or something of it because I think it's really interesting that we randomly picked all these episodes. We didn't know what Beverly
No.
was going to talk about for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a weird, like a string that goes from one to the other.
All right. Pressure's on the next one.
Yep.
Mhm.
Is it
It's you.
my turn?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us today, everybody. Thanks, AP, for picking out the episode and for guiding
Yeah.
us this time.
Woohoo.
It was good. It was a good one.
Thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yep. We'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Activity Continues podcast. We really appreciate you giving us your ears for a bit. Please feel free to drop us a note and say hi. And join us next time when the activity continues.
Nailed it.
The Activity Continues is produced by me, Amy, at Collected Sounds Media and is part of the independent Collected Sounds podcast network.